It's my pleasure to be together again on this very important journey that we try to cover. And first of all, let me offer my respects to our predecessor teachers and to all present and the future viewers. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militandena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Paramanand Madhavam. He Guru Gyanada Dinabandhu Swananda Data Karinakasindo Vrindavana Sinhitavataram Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara. So, on these occasions, we try to cover the 10 main topics of our very holy sacred scripture. This is the Srimad Bhagavatam, which directly cuts through all the misconceptions, or better I say, all the conceptions of divinity, and focuses our attention on a very supreme topic, this supreme absolute truth, and the approach of this truth as meditation as a method, and service as a practical approach. And of course, to cover the main topics of very high-class supreme literature is very close to impossible, because all the subtopics, sub-branches of this divine knowledge are very interesting, and the Bhagavatam provides information on geography, on morals, on social behavior, on individual character, and of course about the divine topics, like how God reveals himself in the course of the words. What about the creation, how it works, the construction of the universes, the end game of a manifest circle. So there are a lot of highly important topics, and we have discussed some. Some were more like theoretical topics, like the creation or liberation or the time factor that is active in the material universe. These are more like conceptual topics. And of course, there are some very practical issues, like the question of today's topic, the supreme benefit, the summum bonum, the best of the best. What is the goal of this whole journey? We might call our life as a journey. So what is the goal of that journey? We had started, and we need to reach our goal. We need to reach our destination. So on this path, from theoretical, we come to practical. From theology, we come to bhakti. From the science of God, we arrive finally to the love of Godhead. So the distance, you might think it's not big, but the journey is long. From theoretical conceptions to arrive to a realized state of spiritual consciousness, it's a remarkable achievement. And actually the goal, the ultimate goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam is to help the readers and the practitioners on this journey. So if we analyze a little bit the connection between theory and practice, we find some very relevant and very important points. For example, in the description, in the pictures of Lord Brahma, for example, as the supreme intelligence in one universe, he's the topmost level of consciousness. He has, in one hand, he has the mala, and in the other hand, he has a scripture, a shastra. So that shows the unity of theory and practice. So whatever you read, you study in the scriptures as a theory, so to say, you have to put it into practice. And our practice is focused on chanting, as this is a very subtle connection, to develop a very subtle connection with Krishna's reality. By chanting the holy names, we can call, we can express our willingness to join that higher reality. And if our well-wishers open the gate, then we shall have free entrance into Krishna's word, his universe, his leelas. So ultimately, this is our goal, to enter the leela. So theory and practice. If we put it in another way, we can say that analysis and synthesis. Analysis is like theory, and synthesis is like practice. Or if we call the classical Indian thoughts schools of philosophy, then we might say Sankhya, to analyze, to count, to examine, and yoga, to unite, to bring together, to connect. So one is analysis and the other is synthesis. One is Sankhya, and Sankhya as a classical school is definitely mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, as Kapila Dev teaches his mother. So we learn a lot about analysis, how the word develops, what are the elements there, etc., etc. But we need to understand the point also of that analysis, of that condensed supreme essence of that analysis, which is none other than a synthesis to be united with the presence of divinity, to join Krishna's pastimes, to be part of the divine reality. As great souls are not part, not member of this isolated material universe, but they are members of the divine realm. They take shelter of the divine energy, as described in the Gita. So Sankhya helps you to understand by analysis, and yoga helps you to integrate, to put the picture together, to come to some conclusions. So Sankhya is like an account, counting the elements and distinguishing the elements of creation, of life. And yoga is like a mystic unifying process. So analysis and mysticism comes together. And what is analysis for us today, and mystic revelation on the other hand? They should come closer to each other. So the majority of human population these times is under the influence of scientific understanding. Most of us try to understand our life, our environment, ourselves in a, so to say, scientific manner. So we are trying to follow analysis. But the more we analyze the things, the less we understand the whole picture. So without a mystic unifying of the elements of understanding, there's no point in an analysis. But fortunately, these two powers, these two methods, can come closer to each other. So by analysis, you can come to some understanding, and some mystic revelation can help your analysis also to grow, to go deeper, so to say. So what happens if we progress nicely in our spiritual tradition? Then the analysis and the mysticism might replace each other, might come closer, share some common field, and even they can be replaced. They can replace each other, I mean. So what do I mean? That today you analyze something, and something that you don't understand, you put in the category of mysticism. But later on, as they exchange their position, these approaches to reality, the mystic experience becomes your analytical reality, so to say, and your analysis also becomes like a mystic revelation. So maybe you remember this very nice explanation when somebody had the question, how is it that human endeavor is successful? How is it that we can accomplish anything in the material world? And then the answer came, there are two sides for this. One is the practical and the other is the mystical. So we can also say one is the analytical and the other is the mystical. So everybody was on the nerves to pay full attention to understand now the mystic secret. And finally the explanation came that the practical side is that you pray And the mystical side is that somehow it happens, success will come. So this is what I mean. Usually we practically expect success, and we think that maybe our meditation or our spiritual practice is a kind of mystic approach. But if that mystic approach is our daily practice, it's not a theory for us, but a practice, then they replace each other, and also the accomplishment of things become a very interesting secret, how it will happen. So this exchange of positions is very important for today's topic, because actually we try to understand, we try to approach the supreme reality, the best that we can expect in our lifetime. Is it a theoretical, faraway, mystic experience for us? Or is it a daily practice? Something that you can touch, something that you can experience, you can enter. So I hope that Krishna's reality is not that far from us. But to reach that, realized platform of spirituality, we need to apply the proper method. And this is not simply analyzing, but practicing is much more important. So what is today's topic? This is the summum bonum, or the absolute good, the unquestionable good, which is beyond any consideration. It is so much resplendent, so much full of light, that there is no question of darkness. There is no shortage, there is no harm, there is nothing missing, nothing absent from this full and complete victory of the light, full of complete perfection. So what is the best of the best? This is the question. And beyond all the theoretical and also practical sides and topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam, now finally we come to some very, very actual question, a very basic question, topic for a spiritual practitioner. We have to be intelligent in our spiritual life, meaning we shouldn't waste our energy and time by something secondary. We need to find the primary goal, and we need to find the primary method also to reach that goal. Life is short. Well, other times we say life is very long, but in general, we can say that life is short. We have to use properly our time to reach our best of the best, to reach the unquestionably beneficial achievement of our spiritual endeavor. So summum bonum means this: supreme, topmost, perfect, possible ideal. An ideal can motivate a person for a long time. Goals will also motivate a person, but the goals are small, and goals motivate us for a short period. Therefore, people want to find new and new goals so that they can achieve that motivated state. But if we have high ideals, then they can motivate us throughout a lifetime. Goals are small, ideals are high. So the summum bonum, this is what we have to find, the topmost supreme ideal that we want to approach. And actually, this word which is described as the summum bonum in Sanskrit. This is the āSHRAYA, or the supreme shelter, the ultimate shelter that we have to find in our lifetime. So this is what we consider the best of the best, the ultimate shelter, the supreme shelter. And this word āSHRAYA has some, just to be precise, have some 22 different meanings. Practically, all different meanings are related to a connection, to possess some qualities. So āSHRAYA is also called like a shelter, like a home, where something resides, like a good quality resides in a person, then this is āSHRAYA. And for us, in this regard, as the 10th topic of the Bhagavatam, this supreme good is the final shelter of both creation, like the material world, and also for the created, the living beings. So who is the shelter? Who is the ultimate shelter of everything that we experience? This is the final question. So first of all, we might search theoretically after this shelter, after this purpose of our life. And we humans, we are always members of a greater picture. We are always part of a greater picture. A human being is usually understood as belonging to someone. Humans are social beings, so we all belong to someone. We belong to our fathers and mothers, we belong to our friends, or we belong to our children, we belong to our social status, we belong to our spiritual masters, we belong to a Sangha, ultimately we belong to God. So we are never alone, we are never separate, but we always belong to someone, something. We can also say that these are different shelters of a human being. We have taken shelter of these different factors, persons, ideals, schools, thoughts, etc. So it is said, if someone is not connected to the source of suffering, then he doesn't suffer. That person doesn't suffer. So I think this is quite an ideal for us, to avoid suffering. But how to achieve that? If we are connected to the source of suffering, that means material existence, material type of consciousness, then we cannot avoid suffering. If you can avoid suffering, that means you are not connected to the source of suffering, like bodily consciousness. But as we always belong to something or somebody, that means we have to belong something else, to something else, something higher. So Krishna is the ultimate source of spiritual bliss. If we are connected to this divine source, then the consequences of that divine source will also come to you. So we are always connected. You have to make the choice whether you are connected to the source of suffering or to the ultimate shelter. When you are traveling, any type of shelter will help, just to protect you from the rain and the cold. But when you reach home, you don't mind the shelters. You don't mind the impermanent help that you received meanwhile. The comfort of home comfort is totally different than the small little shelters that we need on the path. So in the same way, we always surrender to something. Ultimate shelter and surrender, they go together. We can say that the summum bonum, or the āSHRAYA tattva, the shelter, is the divine side of the superior reality, and surrender is our practical approach. It's, so to say, our response to the call of Krishna, to the call of invitation. So you see, one is like a theoretical, objective state, this shelter, and there is a practical approach, what we can do, what we can add to this, we can answer to this invitation, and this is our surrender. But if we examine human beings, we surrender to so many different things, ideals. In the beginning, we have surrendered to limited human consciousness. We have surrendered to the bodily existence. And as it was mentioned in one prayer of the Master, Peter Dunov, I'm a stranger in this world. I know nobody else except you. So if we take shelter of the material environment, the material energy, then we have to reap the fruits of this change, of this choice, better say, of this choice. We take shelter sometimes of our ambitions or material desires, and we could become slaves of them, right? You can see that some people are so engrossed in their convictions, engrossed in their ambitions. So we have to be clever and trying to find the best shelter. So in general, we can say that humans can take shelter of three different things. One is action, the other is knowledge, and the third is affection. So action, knowledge, and affection, or emotions. Therefore, it is said in the Upanishads, the secret teachings, that we have to reach that by reaching which what everything is reached. We have to learn, we have to know that by knowing what everything is known. So reaching, it's like the goals, like the ambitions of human life, is the result of activity. If you're active, you will reach something. But instead of the many small little goals, try to reach the one ultimate goal of life. And if you reach that, then automatically you have reached everything else. Same with knowledge. Real spiritual knowledge is not bits of information. No, it's science of the whole. And they say it is better to have little bits of understanding of the parts than to have a big dose of ignorance of the complete whole. So try to appreciate what you have right now, and always try to go higher, try to go further. As Mahaprabhu said, it's nice what you say, Ramananda, but go further. Is there any higher conception of life? Go further, go further. So try to find that type of knowledge, that type of science. By knowing what? You know everything. And if you know that one thing, then practically you will know everything that is important. And we have to add one more objective to these two, like reaching and knowing. And this one is love, affection. So try to love that one by loving whom you can love everything. Your love, your affection can reach everywhere, everyone. These are very high ideals. To achieve something, by achieving what you achieve everything. To know something, but knowing this, you will know everything. And to love someone, by loving whom you can love everyone, is a very, very high concept. But if you examine properly, if you use your analysis properly, then you can understand that reaching, knowing, and loving is none other than Sat, Chit, and Anandam. Sat, Chit, Ananda, you have heard hundreds and millions of times, right? You might think that, this is boring, it's too elementary, but no, sorry, this is very high. Because Sat, existence, means you can reach the different parts and different layers of existence, right? So try to reach that one particular objective, that by achieving what? You achieve everything, right? Such a high type of conception. You possess only one thing, and by possessing this one, you have achieved everything. Same with knowledge. Try to find that most precious type of knowledge. That understanding what? You have understood everything. And finally, this was the Chit aspect of consciousness. So the most important topic of consciousness. If you reach that, then you accomplish that journey in the realm of consciousness. And finally, our most subtle capacity is the affections, is the emotions that we have. So try to love that one person, all right, that two persons, by loving whom, by serving whom, you can reach everywhere, everywhere. You can love everyone. Your affection can come to each and every individual, each and every part of this created world. So Sat, Chit, and Anandam. And all these different aspects describe the ultimate shelter, describe this summum bonum, the best of the best, the most exceptional, the most excellent ideal that we might have. So don't forget, don't take shelter of smaller goals. Try to take shelter of the highest objectives, the highest ideals in your search, in your understanding, and in your affectionate service. Then it is easier to reach the goal. So, summum bonum, the best ideal, is not for itself. If something is standing only for and by itself, we can say that it's kind of sterile or a kind of selfish. There must be some purpose of this best ideal, of this supreme shelter. So there must be a purpose, because without a purpose, we can very difficult. We cannot find the use of the thing. So the objective, the purpose of a shelter is to serve the benefit of itself, no doubt, but also all the other elements of creation, like the natural environment, both the spiritual and the material cosmos, and also the beings, the created beings, the humans. So this ultimate shelter, this supremely good ideal serves some purpose. I know it sounds a little theoretical, but we know the special quality of Krishna, that he is satisfied in himself, right? But nevertheless, his new and new qualities, his more and more emotional surcharge, his ever-growing bliss needs to be distributed. He wants to distribute his happiness. He wants to share his own experience, and therefore he is searching for partners. So if we identify Sri Krishna as the ultimate shelter, the summum bonum, then there is a purpose for his being. He's not satisfied, not completely satisfied in himself. He's alone. Therefore, we like Krishna to be described in the company of his devotees. Radha Govinda, right? We always add a very best companion for him, just to make him and her on the other side more happy, and just to make our picture of divinity more complete. That is also part of the question. So, yeah, this ultimate shelter is good for everything. And as I mentioned you, this Sat, Chit, and Anandam, I think love is the best best part of us. Our emotions are the most cherished, the most important aspects of our life. So don't waste it. Don't waste it. Try to connect your best part, your purest, most spiritualized emotions with the ideal object, with the ideal partner of that affectionate connection. So don't waste your time, don't waste your emotions, because we are searching for the ideal relationships, and ideal relationships are there on the spiritual platform. So God will never let you down. And the limited human experience shouldn't question the validity of spiritual emotions or spiritual search. But here, a very nice example comes to our mind. If we try to serve, if we try to love Krishna or the divine couple, so that our service, our attention, our little contribution can reach everyone who needs that. And this example is of the tree. So if you try to water the leaves and the branches of the tree, very soon the tree will dry up. But if you water the roots of the tree, then it will flourish, and all the leaves and branches will flourish, and they will bring the flowers, and ultimately they will bring the fruits as well. So if the best of our contribution to what we can give to the world, what we can give to God, is our purified emotions. And therefore we have to give it, we have to offer it as a loving service at the lotus feet of Krishna, because through him, our service will reach its proper destination. So we can say that the lotus feet of Krishna are the root of the cosmic creation. So service to the lotus feet is a practical service, a practical benefit to all individuals, all parts of this universe. And don't forget, Srila Puri Maharaj emphasized that a devotee has to perform his or her own spiritual duties, services, with this conception that the benefit of the whole world, the bliss of all the living beings depend on my service. If I can give properly my contribution to Radha Govinda, then everybody will take the benefit. So it's a very demanding perspective, but at the same time, it's a very glorious position. It's a very glorious activity. So try to act in that respect. Of course, our services are usually very insignificant, very humble services, but if we put it at the proper place, then it will reach a proper destination. Therefore, we have to search for this ultimate shelter. Where to give, how to give our best service. And if we find this channel, if we find this root of existence, if we find this divine connection, then everything is accomplished. Right? So once Srila Prabhupada asked one early lady disciple about some topic, Prabhupada asked, and what is your opinion about this? And this disciple said, well, my opinion is totally insignificant. But as you ask me, I have to give my opinion, and this is the following. I think it's a very nice example how we should feel that our contribution to this cosmic benefit is very small, very insignificant. But if we don't give, it will be missing from the link. It will be missing from the list. So better we give, however small, however insignificant we can, but better we give. And then Krishna, our masters, our teachers, they can take care of our small little individual contribution. And it is a integrate a picture. So as Krishna is never alone, you are also never alone. It is said we have much more well-wishers than we might think. So that's very promising. Because if we live only for ourselves, trying to accomplish our desires, trying to live only according to our ambitions or instincts, we can say, then you live not even for yourself, because you don't serve your spiritual benefit. If you live for yourself, then you don't live for anything, for anyone, sorry. But if you live for Krishna, then you live for everyone, because you serve the root, you water the root, and in this way you are connected to everything, everyone. So this is our invitation. We are invited for that journey. And in a dark age, to practice spiritual life, you have to be very brave. In an opposing environment, it's quite difficult to practice peacefully spiritual life. And we are in a challenge period. So many troubles, so many disharmonies around, so much chaos around. But we have to preserve our integrity. We have to preserve the sanctity of our ideals. And therefore it is said that real courage is to think of the light in the darkness. And we can also say real spiritual courage is to think of the power of dedication in the dark Kali Yuga. So be courageous to think of the best of yourself, give it to the best of recipients. So therefore our life is an experiment. As spiritual practitioners, we are not simply repeating some patterns, but we have to be ready to make this experiment. You have to make one step, check, analyze what is the result of that one step, and then go further. If we go further, that is more integrity, that is more mystic experience, more unity. So analysis, testing, one step is your Sankhya, and taking the courage and taking the inspiration to make the next step, this is our yoga, this is our mystic union. So this experiment means that we take the position of observers. Take the position of observers and expose yourself to the divine reality. For a long time, we human beings try to manage our own life, right? But we can also say that without God, we shall not be successful in these endeavors. So therefore, let God manage your life. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said, oh, we have the best manager. Speaking of Krishna, he is managing. Ultimately, he is managing, not us. You know the proverb, man proposes, God disposes. So, of course, in more rasic aspects, God proposes, and in a fortunate situation, man disposes. So if he asks you something and we are ready to accomplish that small little service, then we are very fortunate. But anyway, in a relationship, things start to happen. If you are alone, nothing happens. If you are in a company, the things, your life starts to happen. Therefore, this shelter, this supreme ideal is not standing by itself, but it's connected. It also searches for connection. So Krishna is the supreme shelter of the whole creation, also tries to find practitioners, partners. This is our hope, that somehow we can also be integrated into his pastimes. And how this shelter will happen, what does it mean in practical life? You know, we are in a very blessed time, because irrespective of the difficulties of the Kali Yuga, for the Kartik, this October-November month is very beneficial for spiritual practices. This is the time when we offer our ghee lamps, our light in worship of Krishna. This is the time when Krishna enjoys the rasa dance with his beloved gopis. This is the time when we make our pilgrimage to the holy places, sometimes in bodily form, other times in mental form. if we can take only a journey in a bhajan or in a worship. And therefore, if this is a very beneficial and very sacred month, then we should take advantage of this sacred month. So by serving these sacred ideals, by practicing, we also make the ideal stronger, right? So therefore, don't waste your attention, don't waste your energy with something else, something secondary. Try to focus on the best shelter. And this is the divine shelter. This is the divine couple, Radha Govinda. So how this shelter manifests? Just a few days before, we had this Diwali celebration when all the homes, all the temples, all the streets are full of light in India. Once I had the opportunity to land by plane on Diwali night in India, it was a miracle. It was a permanent ecstasy of light. Fireworks in practically each and every yard. Beautiful lights just waving through the darkness. And this is the celebration of the light, of the divine victory of the light. Although this is the new moon night, the darkest night, yet we celebrate the victory of the light, the return of Ram and the victory of the light. So isn't that beautiful that in the deepest darkness, you celebrate the light? In Kali Yuga of full selfishness, you try to be selfless. It's the same to serve a very high ideal. In the age of materialism, you try to serve God. You try to make that divine reality a real reality for yourself. So it's the same effort. It's the same mood there. And as soon as this victory over the darkness happens, then the Govardhan Puja comes. So Krishna's this pastime represents this full, complete shelter of him. We all know the story. Just to cut it short, Krishna introduced a new way of worship into the daily life of the people in Vrindavan, who, according to the old tradition, they were worshipping Indra, the Lord of heaven, and also the dispenser of rain. And as no worship was coming to Indra, he became furious and wanted to eliminate this small little village with all the inhabitants who broke the old rule. But Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill and protected his partners, his beloved devotees. Finally, after the devastating rain, when Indra understood that it's useless, he doesn't have power over this small little boy, Krishna, then he understood his mistake and finally also surrendered to Krishna. And then all of a sudden, the clouds disappeared, the sunshine again came, and everybody was peaceful again, and they regained this original comfort that they had before. But under the umbrella of the Govardhan hill, everybody enjoyed full peace and protection. So the Govardhan Parikram, the visiting and circumambulating of the Govardhan hill, is a very favorite practice of the devotees. It's so nice to see the shining eyes and the inspired sights of the devotees. reaching there. And this is one very high ideal for us, because Govardhan is non-different from Krishna. So he actually accepted the form of the hill as his own form. So it's a divine, highly mystic experience that in an object of nature, in one hill, you can perceive the full presence of Krishna. And therefore, all the stones of the Govardhan are considered to be highly sacred and worshipable, just like Krishna himself. But you know, through all different types of worship, they all have their different ras. We approach a certain ideal, a certain divine principle, right? So in Radha Govinda worship, you approach this divine connection, this loving emotional connection between beauty and love. Or in Kali worship or in Durga worship, you try to satisfy the Divine Mother so that she takes care and eliminates the demons. Or if you worship Lakshmi Devi, you want to approach the ideal of being rich. Or if you worship Ganeshji, you want to remove your obstacles. So different ways of worship represent different ideals, different goals. So what is the goal of the worship of Govardhan? What is the ideal behind? So for me, the ideal, the practical ideal behind worshipping the Govardhan is the shelter principle. It's this ultimate shelter of Krishna. Just like the inhabitants of Vrindavan were fully under the protection and care of Krishna for this 1 week. There was no trouble, no harm, nothing was missing. They enjoyed complete and full protection. So the worship of this sacred stone from Govardhan represents this divine principle. If we worship the Govardhan hill, if we worship Govardhan stone, then we worship this principle of divine shelter. Then you are also under the protection of Krishna as he lifts the Govardhan hill, right? Therefore, we have chosen Govardhan worship as the center of ideal of our place, because we want to serve this principle of divine shelter so that everyone finds this protection, so that everyone finds this divine shelter. And therefore, just simply to remember this beautiful and very inspiring Leela of Krishna when he uplifts the hill, it gives a hope of this shelter for us as well. And don't forget about the picture. If you if you remember the picture that Krishna is lifting the hill on the small little finger, and the elderly Gopas, they also put their sticks just to hold the hill. So anyway, our Krishna is a small boy. Maybe he will drop this hill. So then what happens? He wants to enjoy like this, who is able to lift the hill. We want to help him just to make him satisfied, make him happy that he can lift. We shall also help. So this is the illusion of the Gopas. They think that they can help raising a hill. Come on, it's impossible. You cannot raise a hill. It's just impossible. But they are fully charmed under this divine magic of this full shelter, full protection of Krishna, that they forget about themselves. For them, the impossible becomes possible, right? It's impossible to lift a hill, but they want to hold by the sticks because maybe our little Krishna will drop the hill. So this is Leela. This is the beauty of Krishna's pastimes. And actually, this is the invitation for us. Because the example of the Gopas is for teaching us. You please also take your stick and try to help Krishna. He is managing everything, no doubt, no question. But bring your stick. You also contribute. You also help his will to manifest. There are two ideals in this world. One is to help, to serve the accomplishment of the divine will. This is for Krishna. And to make the mission of divine love possible. This is for Radha. So these are the two ideals that we want to live so that the divine desire is fulfilled and the divine act of love is accomplished. And we are very happy to serve these two principles. And then it is not a principle anymore, but it's an accomplished and a realized reality. So this is where theory and practice will meet. This is where analysis and synthesis will meet. This is where your Sankhya, your scientific approach, and your yoga, your mystic union will happen. Because in this experiment, we also have to be clever. We don't want to make the experiment with secondary objects and secondary powers, but with the primary power, the primary source. And this is affection. This is your most powerful part. And we also agreed a precious part of you, your spiritual emotions. So try to connect them with the divine couple, and then you can accomplish your journey. Just like we have accomplished our journey, trying to examine and analyze a little bit these 10 main topics of the Bhagavatam. And this ultimate topic, this shelter principle, the summum bonum, the best of the best, the highest ideal, is inviting us, inviting you also to be part of a more spiritual, a better life, to accomplish this experiment. And shelter and object, āSHRAYA and Vishaya, they don't exist without the other. So the ultimate shelter of the world, of the whole creation, wants you as a practitioner to enjoy his mercy. So this is our hope, this is our ideal, and this is our practice. Of course, we should go on glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam. Even if we had thousands of mouths, that wouldn't be enough. Even if we had thousands of ears, that wouldn't be enough to listen to the glories. The mouths wouldn't be enough to glorify properly the Srimad Bhagavatam. But instead of talking and listening, better we try to practice, put these beautiful high ideals into practice in our life, how to come closer to Krishna's reality, how to serve his purpose, how to find his satisfaction so that God proposes and man disposes. Thank you so much. And please go on with your spiritual practices. May the Supreme Lord bless you 1,000 times and fulfill all your spiritual desires that are favorable for you, for your spiritual growth, and try to share the light that you have. That is the higher principle, not only for yourself, but for others. So thank you once more, and be blessed, and hope to see you on some other occasions where we can also discuss some further points of spiritual life. Jai. Jai Shri Krishna. Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you. Nice. So the Sangha is together again, right?
Yes.
Yes, Guru, yes.
Jai. That's good. What is happening in the ashram?
Preparation
What?
for Govardhan Puja.
Oh, really? This is for today. I see. Jai. We had our celebration yesterday, and I was surprised how many people came, and it was a very happy and very jolly celebration. Usually our